Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MetrObelisk Radio. Today we are going to be looking at the Terminator. And before anyone asks, yes, we are going to look at all 6 movies before the end of the year 2020. Now obviously we're going to look at the movie that started this whole phenomena. And this movie would launch the careers of both Jim Cameron as a writer-director and Arnold Schwarzenegger as a bona fide action movie star. Now what we're going to be looking at is, what the Terminator actually is. Is it action, or is it more of a horror movie with action elements? Now, before we get started, remember to follow the blog, MetrObeliskRadio.blogspot.com, where you can stay up to date on all MetrObelisk Radio uploads, no matter if they're exclusive to whatever platform you are currently watching or listening to this on. And with that out of the way, let's take a look at the Terminator. Now, as always, we always start off by looking at the creative team, and this movie was directed by James Cameron. And no, this was not his directorial debut. That movie would be Piranha 2: The Spawning. Now, I'm assuming that the majority of you listening to this right now know who James Cameron is. Now, in case if you don't, he's directed other movies such as Aliens, The Abyss, True Lies, Titanic, and Avatar. Just for those one or two that probably don't know who he is. Now let's take a look at the writers on the movie. And the first writer we're going to look at is James Cameron. Now, he's written a lot of the stuff that he's directed. And the other movies that he had a hand in writing were Rambo: First Blood Part 2, Strange Days with Ralph Fiennes and Angela Bassett, and a fun fact that was also directed by one of his ex-wives, Catherine Bigelow, and Alita Battle Angel with Christoph Waltz and Rosa Salazar. The next writer on this movie would be Gail Ann Hurd, and that would actually be another one of Jim Cameron's ex-wives, his first ex-wife. Now, most of you probably know her as the EP behind AMC's The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, and The Talking Dead. The only writing credits that she has are anything related to the first Terminator movie. That would include all of the Terminator video games, along with the Sarah Connor Chronicles TV show with Summer Glau as the Terminator. And finally, we have William Wisher. Now, he wrote additional dialogue for this movie, but this movie would be his first writing credit. He's written other movies such as Judge Dredd with Sly Stallone and Rob Schneider, The 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas, The Exorcist, The Beginning, Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist, and IT with Pierce Brosnan. Now we're going to jump into our character analysis portion of this, and there's only 3 characters that really this movie centers around. Everyone else is just kind of here to service the plot. So let's look at the first character, and we obviously have Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator. Now, he's the protagonist of this movie. He's a cyborg who's been sent back from the future to kill Sarah Connor. Now, there's nothing more to his character than that. Just a killing machine carrying out a mission, the mission that he was programmed to carry out. Then we have Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. Now, she's the one that the Terminator is hunting down. Herpaderp, I just said that. She is just some waitress at a local restaurant who gets pulled into this whole futuristic stuff with the future war between man versus machine because of her unborn son leading a resistance against the machines. And finally, we have Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese. Now, Kyle Reese, I actually argue, is the antagonist of the movie. He also travels back in time to protect Sarah Connor from this Terminator. Now, we find out he's a foot soldier that John Connor sent back in time to protect his mother. And at one point, him and Sarah Connor, I want to keep this PG, so we're going to say they got a little busy by the end of the movie. She's pregnant, a.k.a. Kyle Reese is John Connor's father. Now let's jump into our narrative analysis portion of this. Now, this movie is rather simple, given that it's the first movie in a series. A nuclear holocaust happens in the future, and the computers that were supposed to run everything and protect mankind have turned on the remaining survivors. The machines are now trying to wipe out what is left of mankind. The machines send a Terminator back in time to kill Sarah Connor before her son John can ever be born. Now, the machines have to kill him in the past because he was successful in his effort to stop the machines in the future. So killing him in the future wouldn't have prevented a damn thing. However, kill the man before he's even born, and you could have a completely different outcome, a completely different future. Now, in the beginning of the movie, we see the Terminator killing a couple of different Sarah Connors before finding the right one and just sticking with it. Now, this is explained in the movie as Skynet doesn't know what Sarah Connor even looks like. All they have is a name and a city. So we see the Terminator go to a phone book, hey kids, remember when phone books existed? And basically just go down that list of Sarah Connors until he finds the right one and just happens to stick with it. Now, why does this movie work? And I'll actually make the argument it's not the action. Yes, there's plenty of action in the movie, but I feel that the Terminator's narrative works because it's a horror movie. And more specifically, it's a slasher movie. The only difference is the Terminator wields a gun instead of a blade. Yes, this could also fall under the cyberpunk genre, but the cyberpunk elements are used to feel the horror aspects of the movie. Not only do the machines try to wipe out mankind in the future, they send one back to kill the leader of the resistance before he's born. Now, something like that can terrify some people, and other people think that this is just a cool piece of science fiction, but hey, to each their own. And I'm not gonna lie, you're gonna see a lot of effects in this movie that have not aged well. Given that this movie came out in 1984, we're now in 2020 as of the recording of this episode. That means the movie came out all about 36 years ago. Now, the one that is very jarring, the one effect very jarring, is when you see the robot Arnold Schwarzenegger when he removes his human eye and you see the robotic eye. It's very telling when it goes from robot Arnold to normal Arnold. Now, nowadays with CGI, you can make that transition feel very seamless. You don't even need to get a robot in there. Just get a CGI character and hey, look how cool we can make him. But in this movie, however, with it being so old, like I said, it came out in 1984, the special effects are going to age quite significantly. However, this does not mean it is a bad movie. Special effects age, some age very well, but the vast majority fall into the category of aging very poorly. Even modern movies with advanced CGI, so that'd be the Star Wars sequel trilogy, Avatar, Alita Battle Angel, will probably one day be looked upon as special effects aging very poorly. Because what is the golden rule of movies? What are the first things in a movie to age? It's not the story and characters, it's the visuals. Now let's take a look at how this movie was received. This movie has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 100%. Keep in mind, this is modern audiences. And that's based on 63 critic reviews, with the critics' consensus being, quote, with its impressive action sequences, taut economic direction, and relentlessly fast-paced, it's clear why the Terminator continues to be an influence on sci-fi and action flicks. And this movie has an audience score of 89%, based on 776,508 audience reviews. And this movie has a Metacritic score of 84, based on 21 critic reviews, and a user score of 7.5 out of 10, based on 985 ratings. And this movie sits very comfortably on IMDb at an 8 out of 10, based on 784,458 reviews. Now, this movie was made on a budget of only $6.4 million back in 1984. But if we adjust that for inflation in 2020 dollars, that is a budget of $15,960,023.10. And the movie grossed $78,680,331 worldwide back in the day. Now, adjusted for inflation, 2020 dollars, that is a worldwide gross in 2020 dollars of $196,209,359.41. And yes, this movie was even praised at the time. Now, most of the negative reviews focused on the level of violence in the movie. Yes, that was a thing back then. Oh my god, Dungeons and Dragons leads to devil worship. Because who knew that an R-rated action sci-fi horror movie would have a shit fuck ton of violence in it? You better not bring 5-year-old little Timmy. My response? No shit. My horrible Arnold Schwarzenegger impression there, but hey, it's like South Park. You don't listen to these for the impressions. All my impressions are done horribly, and I don't deny that. Now, this is a good movie, and not just because it's a first outing, but the movie really does stand the test of time. Now, I know that I ragged on some of the special effects not aging well, but this movie doesn't rely on them as heavily as some of the sequels do. The biggest problem with science fiction movies being produced since about the 90s is just the over-reliance on such flashy special effects. As I said not that long ago, special effects are going to age, and I will expand on that. They are the first things to age when you're looking at an older movie, as I said. And I'll end the episode off with this before I drag this out any longer than it needs to be. I feel that the Terminator has withstood the test of time because it's not reliant on its special effects. This movie works as a science fiction cyberpunk and also as a horror movie. Where the special effects age, the horror doesn't. The premise of a machine coming back in time to kill the leader of a human resistance before he is born can be quite horrifying. You don't need to make a $100 million spectacle to sell that premise. The only thing you have to do is make the machine a cyborg, which this movie did, And out of all the Terminator movies, I feel that this one and one other really stand on their own merits. This movie is good, but it's not considered a good movie only because it started the series. There's a lot more to it than just that.